And now passage 4, kayaks and kayaking. I just got 2 kayaks this last summer, so just a little side note. Kayaks are lightweight canoes originally used for hunting and fishing by the Inuit peoples of the northern coasts of North America. Today, many people use kayaks recreationally for whitewater sports and for touring wilderness areas that are extremely wild. Now, we have wilderness areas. We do not need this echoed, so J, omit the underlined portion. This is a concision question. Most kayaks are made of rubberized cloth, molded plastic, or fiberglass. It is covered. Now, it is singular, but it's taking the place of kayaks, which is plural. So that pronoun antecedent agreement does not agree. So we need they are covered, C. Except for the opening in which the paddler or paddlers sit. The writer is considering deleting the preceding sentence. Should it be kept? I feel like it needs to be kept. It helps the reader visualize the kayak's construction. Moving on. The 2 principal types of kayaks are semicolon. Well, that's odd. This random semicolon in there. We don't even have a complete thought yet, so we just need to get rid of it. C. Are the easily maneuverable whitewater kayak and the largest sea kayak. Okay, we are comparing 2 items here, the maneuverable whitewater and then the sea kayak. So if we're comparing 2, we do not use EST. Remember that comparison and superlative note discussion that you processed recently? So it should be larger, J. Kayaking in whitewater, the tumultuous rapids of swift-moving rivers, appeals. Okay, so we have an appositive phrase rammed in here without any punctuation to communicate that there's an appositive phrase. So where does it start? Kayaking in whitewater, comma, the tumultuous rapids of swift-moving rivers, comma, yeah. So over here it should be C. We have an appositive phrase and we need to communicate such with commas. Designed to maneuver through rapids and around treacherous rocks, many whitewater kayaks are only 6 to 9 feet long. Because the center of gravity of the paddler rides low in the water, kayaks are stable boats, not easily capsized. Just a side note, this sentence starts with a dependent clause. Just trying to make you aware of those when we see them. Whitewater kayakers are, at last, advised to wear, at last, that should be one of the first things. We need a better transition in here. Whitewater kayakers are, therefore. Wouldn't be therefore, one cause, nevertheless. Even though they're stable, nevertheless, they are advised to wear helmets. So J. And that's a clarity question. The longer sea kayaks are designed for distance and speed rather than maneuverability. Some models have 2 or 3 seats. Sea or coastal kayaking offers easy access to wetlands, marshes, habitats along shores. Kayaks can float in less than a foot of water, so a nature watcher can quietly paddle through shallows, frequently shorebirds, and other wildlife. Which of the following alternatives to the underlying portion would be least acceptable? Well, you have a comma so, which is joining 2 sentences. And so is similar to thus, so A would work. Consequently, that's very similar to thus as a result. Oh, and this has as a result, it has got comma and, which can join 2 sentences. Yet, okay, we don't need yet because yet seems to be contrasting and we don't need a contrast here. So D would be the least acceptable. 55, if the writer were to divide the preceding paragraph into the 2 shorter paragraphs in order to differentiate between the 2 types of kayaks, where should the new paragraph begin? Okay, we need to look about where the 2 kayaks start being discussed, which is right here, right before sentence 5. So, C. Excuse me. Equipment for both types of kayaks are, now, stop. This is where kids get really tricked. Are is the verb For the subject, equipment. We have a compound prepositional phrase squeezed in here between the two subjects, between the subject and verb, and that confuses kids. They think kayaks is the subject, and if that were the case, R should have no change. So this is a subject-verb agreement question. Equipment is singular, so we need is. Equipment is. G. Kayakers use a short double-bladed paddle, comma, an elasticized spray skirt fits snugly around the waist of the seated paddler to keep water out of the boat. We have two sentences here, not even in a positive phrase. We cannot join two with a comma, so we need a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon. And we need to decide between B and C. So does it really seem like we have a thus progression between the first sentence and the second sentence? So I'm going to go with equal balance, B. In fact, a kayak can roll over and be brought back upright without taking on water. Propelling a kayak works the upper body muscles. The paddler pulls one end through the water of the paddle. Okay, through the water is in the wrong place. It's a prepositional phrase. It's a modifier, but it's misplaced. The best placement would be where? The paddler pulls one of the paddles. Oh, I'm sorry. The paddler pulls one end of the paddle through the water on alternating sides of the boat. So after paddle. So J. Skilled kayakers sense the nuances of water movement by means of the kayak hull and adjust their stroke force and pace to keep the kayak on course. Not all kayakers can appreciate the nuances of nature as they travel on water in this simple, but versatile boat. We don't need a comma and a conjunction to separate these two adjectives, simple and versatile. We just don't. We're not joining two sentences, so B is your best answer. And then 60 at the end. If the writer were to delete this final paragraph, upper body, through the water, nuances, appreciate, which of the following would be lost? It's not a detailed description of muscles. This seems a little too vague. I don't feel like the details have qualified or have fulfilled G. A scientific explanation? No, it does not do that. There are no details there. A plea to kayakers to be careful of the environment. Well, it is talking about the nuances of water movement. So I think J works better than the other three. I don't really like this question, but J is what I would choose, and it is the answer.